Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Dane, your host of the Rock and Metal Guardian. I hope you're having a great day. And today I'm going to talk about my top 25 favorite songs of all time from the band Led Zeppelin, my second favorite band of all time. So I'll be counting down from my 25th favorite up to my first favorite. And so let's jump right in. Coming in at number 25 is the song Ramble On from Led Zeppelin 2, one of 3 or 4 songs where Zeppelin have allusions to Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, or they take poetic license with the story and have kind of like their own side story or side quest that's all their own. And what I like about Ramble On, aside from the music, is it mentions Gollum, one of the villains from the story, and the invention here is, but Gollum grabbed his beloved and crept up away with her with the evil. He and the evil horde, I guess the orcs of Sauron, take the narrator's beloved and run away with her. Just a great song. And it's one of those songs that's also the stereotypical, we hear these, there's just a plethora of songs about, sorry, I can't stay, I gotta leave, I gotta go, right? Just so many, think Leonard Skinner's Freebird, that sort of thing. A little different here because of the Tolkien-esque quality to it, but it still works in many ways. So Ramble On, number 25. Coming in at number 24 is When the Levee Breaks on the Untitled, or Led Zeppelin 4, or Zoso, or Four Symbols, right? And what I love about the song, as most of us do who like the song, is just how powerful the drums are, the opening, right? And most of us know the story about how this was recorded at Headley Grange, and so many songs were that follow. And so the drums are put at the bottom of the stairwell, and you get that magnificent, powerful from John Bonham. And the rest was history, right? And talk about what a way to end an album. And so many of us who listen to music focus on what makes a good album. It's you open with a strong song and you close with a strong song, and this is definitely one of those albums. And again, like I said, what a way to end the album with just a great tune. Everyone is just amazing on that song. It's not just about Bonham, but he is the highlight of that song, at least for me personally. All right, coming in at number 23 is from Houses of the Holy. There's the gatefold. The Ocean. And this used to be a much higher in my list. When I was a teenager, this was probably my top 10, but it's fallen, as you can tell, but it's still in my top 25. It's just a great song, and Robert Plant's vocals, always amazing. There's something special here. I can't put my finger on it, but just a great song. Next is Out on the Tiles from Led Zeppelin 3. I really love this song, and Plant's register here on Out of the Tiles is, I don't want to say unique, but there's just something about it that he's singing in a way that he's just super ecstatic. The way he sings, that's the word, I guess. There's just something ecstatic. He's happy. He's excited. He's just in the zone, or he is the zone, right? I say that once in a while about an artist, or about a particular song, or about the artist in a particular song. But here, it's just Out on the Tiles. Used to be in my top 10, too, like The Ocean, but it's fallen, but it's still a great song. So, all right. Next, 10 Years Gone, my favorite slow song on Physical Graffiti. I think this is the song, it's either this or Down by the Seaside. That's an homage, or a tribute rather, to Neil Young. Either way, just fantastic. I love the guitar playing. I love the way Plant sings. Just everybody's fantastic. Just some days I think it's in my top 10 and should be, but here it's number 21. All right, staying with this album, The Rover, second song on side 1, if you're a vinyl person, after Custard Pie, and just one of the heavier songs on the album. following suit with Custard Pie, just hitting us over the head, knocking us dead with some heavy stuff. So The Rover comes in at 20. And sticking with this album, number 19 is Custard Pie. A little heavier, if you ask me, than The Rover. And just right in your face, right off the bat, again, talking about an opening, great way to open an album. So Custard Pie at number 19. Sticking with this album yet again, number 18 is Kashmir. Used to be in my top 10, perhaps, definitely in high school. But there's just some songs that have taken over in its place. So 18 is Kashmir. And I love the strings. I love the instrumentation. Perhaps Led Zeppelin's most unique song of all time. Just when I heard it for the first time in high school, I was like, wow, this is so much different from the Led Zeppelin I know and love. And yet, it's what they did as a band. They would challenge your expectations and do something different outside the box. And it mostly worked. Most of the time it worked. Definitely on here. All right. Next is, sticking with this album again, Houses of the Holy, like Def Leppard's On Through the Night and some other tracks that I can't think of. You get a song that's not on the album of the same name, but it comes on the album that follows or later on. Just a great song. And I wonder what the sales of Houses of the Holy would have been had they put it on here. It's one of the Headley Grange album. I'm sorry, it's one of the Headley Grange songs, I do believe. But it's on here. I'm okay with that. So, all right. Houses of the Holy, 17. Number 16, sticking with this yet again, is the Wanton song or the Wanton song. This is a heavy song. It's short and sweet, but it's so heavy. The drums are what make, and the fills from bottom, and there's this great part in the song where you think bottom's going to hit the cymbal or another part of the drums, but there's this hesitancy or hesitation, and then he hits it. It's just great. All right. Next is the Immigrant song. Come from the land of the ice and snow. Valhalla, I'm coming. Great way to start an album, right? It's 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And as someone who teaches literature and history and appreciates Viking mythology and history, it's right up my alley. Number 14 is Heartbreaker. What a great guitar solo from Jimmy Page. Even made its way onto the television series Saint Elsewhere back when I was in high school. The NBC show, which was set in the hospital. Denzel Washington got his start there. Anyway, Heartbreaker has a Jimmy Page. Sorry, what I meant to say was has a Jimi Hendrix vibe to it for some reason, and I can't put my finger on it. But anyway, Heartbreaker, great guitar solo. Number 13, back to Houses of the Holy. Song remains the same. And another great opener, right? And it's so catchy and delightful. And Plant singing he's singing perhaps at his highest register. I've heard stories where they sped up the tape. I don't know how true that is. Regardless, he's singing at this is probably him at his highest, I think. But either way, whether they sped up the tape or not, I just love it. And then it leads its way into the Rain song. And if you don't know this, fun fact, originally the song Remains the Same was supposed to be an instrumental to lead into the Rain song, but Plant said, no, we got to put lyrics down. And he came up being the primary songwriter, and there you have it. Let's see. Number 12, back to Physical Graffiti. In My Time of Dying, 11 minutes and change, 11 minutes, 30-something seconds. And like a song I'm going to talk about later, higher up my list, Bottom is the star of this song. Again, In My Time of Dying. Plant would be a close second with, It sounds like he's saying, "Oh my T." It's supposed to be, "Oh my Jesus," right? Asking for another pair of wings. Please greet me with another pair. Oh man, the drums are just phenomenal. Oh, what a great song. All right, an epic song from Zeppelin. Number 11, La Folky, Sandy Denny, backup vocals, Battle of Evermore. When I was growing up and I first got this on vinyl in high school, I would always skip this song. And lo and behold, it's almost in my top 10. It cracks. It's number 11. Almost cracks my top 10. Sandy Denny from Fairport Convention has something to do with it. Great female vocalist. I would say second after Ann Wilson of Heart. But I remember when this would come on, I would lift the needle and go, like the first few seconds of Plant singing, I was like, what is this? And then lo and behold, it's become near and dear to my heart. So Battle of Evermore, number 11. And then it's one of those songs that's it's slow but compelling, and then it gets not fast or heavy, but it gains momentum, and that's what makes the song. It's that light and shade, but in a different way from what Page talks about. It's not light and heavy. It's light and then intense. All right. Dazed and Confused from the debut is cracking my top 10, and sticking with the studio version. And as you probably know, or many of you know, there's a live Yardbirds album or CD where you see him playing parts of this in an extended version of one of their songs, and it's almost as good as this. Not quite. This is the definitive, maybe even the live version, but it's just a great song. It's a little raw on here since it's their first album. It's not as good as this album is not as well produced as the second and the third and so forth, but still a great album. I like albums that have, a little imperfection in their production, like Metallica's first album and Nirvana's first album. There's a certain vibe or emotive or atmosphere that makes it special. So I don't mind that at all. But Dazed and Confused is just fabulous. The bow across the strings, excuse me. So number 10, Dazed and Confused. Sticking with this album, number 9 is Communication Breakdown, one of their heaviest songs. In the book Hammer of the Gods, the first biography of the band, I do believe it's the first one, Davis talks about how he sees the young men at the front of the stage headbanging. What he saw was them headbanging for the first time. So perhaps maybe the first heavy metal song of all time. Maybe. Excuse me. All right. Number 8 is Back to Houses of the Holy with No Quarter. More Norse mythology. The winds of Thor are blowing cold. And the main member of the band who shines the most in the song is, of course, John Paul Jones. Just an amazing keyboard player all around. Perhaps his best work. I wish they would put out some of the live recordings because they were known to, John Paul Jones with the band would be known, I forget what song, to launch into some of the work by Rachmaninoff, if I'm pronouncing that right, the classical composer. Anyway, and I think it was tied to this. And we all know from the movie the song remains the same. The Jack the Ripper fantasy that we have, and that's when No Quarter comes in. So in years past, this was in my top 5, but it's number 8. Still cracks my top 10. Just a very great song, goosebumpy type of song, right? If that's a word. Number 7, back to the debut, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. And this is what Jimmy Page was referring to when he first started the band, talking about light and shade, because he pointed to that song when he was listening to Joan Baez's version and getting Plant and company to understand where he's coming from. So the story goes. So, and of course you have Great White doing a beautiful version as well, but this is my favorite version of the three. I'm sure there are others out there. It's very powerful. It's intense. That Light and Shade again. Number 6, coming from the Presence, finally a song from the Presence album. Excuse me, I lost my place in my list. Nobody's Fault But Mine. There's a couple harmonica solos on here. I think that steals the show, or it's part of what steals the show. But in addition to the harmonica solos by Plant, you especially hear it with headphones. But I remember listening to this on vinyl for one of the first times. It was probably maybe the third or fourth time. This is back when I'm in high school or even younger, and my dad put it on. And I'm like, the rhythm section is a step or two or three behind the rest of the band, Plant and Page. I'm like, but it works. It lends a certain groove, atmosphere, funk element, maybe not a pure funk, but there's just something. And if you listen to it with headphones, as I said, you can hear it even more. It's just, it works. They're out of step with the other two members of the band, and yet, you have Plant singing and Page is playing, and then you hear bump, 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 right? It's great. So Nobody's Fault But Mine, and you have the na 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 na, right? The kind of Janis Joplin thing, which Axl Rose will imitate later in Welcome to the Jungle. I think that's deliberate on his part. Anyway, great song. Nobody's Fault But Mine. Next is Trampled Underfoot. So back to Physical Graffiti, and the title track is misleading because Jimmy Page, being for a long part of his life into the occult, reading, I guess, about Aleister Crowley, who said he went to North Africa and he was trampled underfoot by demons, so that's where the title comes from. And yet, on a literal level, the song's about a car. Sure glad I took a look inside those showroom doors. Talk about love. Baby, let me pump your gas. All these car references, but won't go into it. But on a figurative level, it's about something totally different, and I'll leave it at that. You can use your imagination. Number 4, so 5 was Trampled Underfoot. Number 4 is Since I've Been Loving You. This is used to be number 1 for a while. Recently, mind you, not in a couple of years, I guess. But Since I've Been Loving You, we all know, most of us know the history that not the music, but the lyrics were taken word for word from another artist. I believe Moby Grape. Don't quote me on that. And there's a YouTube video about it. It's quite old now, about the things that Zeppelin stole or borrowed and made it their own, that kind of thing, plagiarized, whatever you want to call it, and then lawsuits ensued and that sort of thing. But regardless of the history of them stealing or plagiarizing or borrowing or whatever term you want to use, it's still a great song. And I think they've paid the appropriate people the royalties, I hope, because that's the right thing to do. But this, whether you're talking about the studio version or the version on the soundtrack, the song remains the same. Man, this is Plant sounding like a male Janis Joplin. He's not a sing as high as, say, some other songs that I mentioned already. But man, this is maybe him at his most powerful performance. And it's so inviting. It's so compelling. It never gets old. It gives me goosebumps every time. I'm just one of those people. I talk about getting goosebumps all the time, but it is what it is. It delivers. It delivers every time. So number 4, Since I've Been Loving You. Now, number 3, we're back to the Presence album. And I have to talk about this Achilles' Last Stand. And like In My Time of Dying, it's all about the drums, sort of. The drums are just powerful. Everything, the whole band is great, but Bonham is just more than Bonham here, if that makes sense. And if you can get that figure of speech, if you will. And the message is great. Robert Plant breaks his Achilles tendon or his ankle, and he's in a wheelchair, and in Morocco in a car accident, and he still goes on tour, so he's sitting down with the cast, and so it's also personal, it's biographical, but it also works with the Greek mythology, and it applies to us as well. What are our weaknesses, and how do we handle life when life throws a monkey wrench at us and we have to sit, or fill in the blank, what else it might mean for us personally. Next is, and this is a cliched choice, but I can't help the way that I feel, Whole Lotta Love. Starts with a cough. I remember when this first came out on CD, they took the cough out, and I remember being so upset. Then they put it back in. I guess people complain. It's part of the song. And of course they make fun of that on Physical Graffiti at the end of, I forget what song, and Robert goes, cough, right? So anyway, I also love some of the stuff on Physical Graffiti at one point. I think it's Robert again who goes, "Oh, we rolling, Jimmy?" Anyway, so back to Whole Lotta Love. You got the theremin, and we all know what the song is about. It's about ecstasy, and I'll leave it at that. It's just a great song, and that's one of the songs that Led Zeppelin were inspired from a previous blues artist, I forget who, from the 50s or 60s. Just a great song. And finally, my number one, before we get to honorable mentions, let me give you my number one. Yes, this is a cliche choice, but I again have to be honest. Can't help the way I feel. Stairway to Heaven. Listening to Stairway to Heaven never gets old, and I will often listen to this song when I need some sort of catharsis. I need to purge my emotions and let it all out. The song just does a great job of that. Talk about Jimmy Page's stress on light and shade. It's just so many songs where, in the history of rock music, where the song starts off slow, again compelling, and then it's working its way to that heavier build-up or that more intense build-up. Think of Judas Priest, Dreamer, Deceiver / Deceiver. The closing song on The Mob Rules, Over and Over. The closing song on Heaven and Hell, Lonely is the Word. The closing song on, it's not the closing song, I don't think, but Child in Time by Deep Purple. And there are others, but those are probably my 5 favorite. This is just powerful. Again, it's cliched, but I gotta go with my gut. And the message is just amazing. I remember reading, I have a book called, it's right over here, Whole Lotta Led Zeppelin, and there's an interview from Dolly Parton where she gives her interpretation of what the song means. A friend of mine in high school wrote his paper, his college senior paper, on him interpreting the lyrics. And of course the lovely There's Still Time to Change the Road You're On, which is just amazing. So there you have it, everybody. These are my top 25 favorite Led Zeppelin tracks of all time. Now let me give you a few honorable mentions. Friends from Led Zeppelin 3, Celebration Day from Led Zeppelin 3, The Lemon Song from Led Zeppelin 2, How Many More Times from the debut, Bring It On Home from Led Zeppelin 2, Going to California from Led Zeppelin 4, great folk tune. Love the way it ends with the right there, right? Great. And then finally Down by the Seaside from Physical Graffiti. And after 10 Years Gone, this is my second favorite ballady or slow song from that album, and maybe in their entire catalog, after Going to California. Those 3 are my favorite. Going to California, Down by the Seaside, and 10 Years Gone, my favorite slow songs by them. I can't call Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You a slow song, because it's back and forth between the two, being light and shade or light and heavy, right? So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to click the notification button to be apprised of all upcoming videos. And please click the like and subscribe button to help the channel grow. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day. Take care now. Bye.